Will we maybe see a Deadpool 4?
Oh God, no.
I had absolutely no input into what happened.
Ryan Reynolds just completely blindsided Disney after they reportedly slashed his salary. He decided to hit back, and he's making a move that's already causing pure chaos behind the scenes. If what we're hearing is true, what he's doing might just force Marvel to kill the Deadpool character permanently. It's an insane situation.
Will we maybe see a Deadpool 4?
Oh God, no.
I was talking to some guys about it the other day, and we all agreed it feels like the gloves are off. The ultimate Hollywood double cross. And it's not just about one star or one movie. This is a battle for the soul of Hollywood. And the greatest fourth-wall-breaking anti-hero of all time may be the first casualty. Why? Because the man behind the mask, Ryan Reynolds, was just hit with what insiders are calling one of the most cold-blooded salary slashings in Disney's modern history.
If I'm going to bomb or win, I want to have a say in it, and I want to have some authorship. And if I'm going to bomb, I want to be the architect of my own demise. I don't want to be a passenger on someone else's nose-diving jet plane.
And he's not staying quiet. He's reportedly plotting revenge, but not the playful, red-suited kind. We're talking scorched earth, studio rupturing, and franchise-destroying payback. Let's be crystal clear. There may be no more Deadpool. Not because fans have given up on the character, not because the character lost relevance, but because, allegedly, Disney decided to cut Reynolds out of the very deal he helped build with his own blood, sweat, and self-written scripts.
Well, yeah, we developed the script 6 years ago, wrote this fantastic script. It leaked online and Deadpool fans went nuts for it. So the studio granted us a small amount of money to make test footage. This test footage that we shot then sat on the shelf for 4 years, as it does. They didn't do anything with it.
He continued by saying,
just a little under 2 years ago, it leaked accidentally onto the internet.
Accidentally.
And, well, here's the thing. The fans freaked out, the Deadpool fans freaked out and overwhelmed Fox, and Fox basically had to greenlight the movie.
The most shocking part? It was after he saved a billion-dollar franchise.
Deadpool has broken more boundaries than just the fourth wall. It has become the highest-grossing R-rated film of all time.
The fans themselves stand with Ryan, believing he made him right and did him justice, and that without him, they would not want to watch the movies.
I don't think I can do that again. So I think if he comes back, it's going to be in someone else's movie.
To really grasp why this matters, you need to understand just how intimately this man built Deadpool from scratch, and why this story is so much bigger than just him. The film industry as we know it today was saved once before. Back in the 1970s, the old studio system was collapsing. Years of predictable cookie-cutter movies had bled the audience dry. The old guard was terrified. They had lost their golden touch. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, came the new Hollywood era. Young, independent visionaries like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas burst onto the scene. They weren't just directors, they were creators who had an unfiltered vision, a passion for stories, and a deep understanding of their audience. They brought movies like Jaws and Star Wars to life, not by following corporate mandates, but by trusting their gut and their creative instincts. They single-handedly saved the film industry from its own slow, self-inflicted demise. That's the story we're living through now. We are at a similar inflection point. The old guard has become addicted to tired remakes, soulless sequels, and sanitized, focus group-tested sludge. The audience is bored, and the artists are desperate for a change. And the hope for that change rests on the shoulders of the very man Disney is now trying to destroy, Ryan Reynolds.
And when you have a point of view and it can't be expressed, even though you try.
Like something, a monkey rattling a cage. It's gonna like start chewing the bar.
Terrible feeling.
But before we get into the brutal details of the betrayal, we have to look at the history, because it's a history Disney conveniently wants to forget. Let's talk facts. The comic book character of Deadpool was created by artist Rob Liefeld and writer Fabian Nicieza, first appearing in the New Mutants in 1991. From the very beginning, he was a quirky, fourth-wall-breaking anti-hero, known for his dark humor and rapid-fire wit. Over the years, the character developed a cult following, but he was never considered A-list material for a movie franchise. That changed when Ryan Reynolds first got his hands on the character, not as a star, but as a supporting role.
When you do try to express the point of view and you're sort of placated or told, that we're not going to do that, or you say something that sort of feels reasonable, like, let's stop spending on spectacle and let's spend on character. Or like, why are we putting all the money in special effects when we could just write, and that's sort of dismissed. If that happens a couple of times, you sort of go, okay.
In 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine, Reynolds played Wade Wilson. The film was a critical failure, and the character's portrayal was an insult to fans. The movie famously took the merc with a mouth and sewed his mouth shut. It was a creative crime. Reynolds knew it, and he refused to let it stand. The legend says he walked off that set with a fire in his gut, determined to make things right. For years, he fought to get a proper Deadpool movie made. He pitched the idea to 20th Century Fox, but they were hesitant. They thought an R-rated superhero movie was a huge risk. They just didn't get it. They said no, over and over again.
What I mean is I would be on big movies, and I would be nervous, and I knew the stakes, but I had absolutely no input into what happened.
Then, in 2014, something remarkable happened. A short test footage, directed by Tim Miller and starring Reynolds, accidentally leaked onto the internet. It perfectly captured the tone and spirit of the comic. The fan reaction was a firestorm. They freaked out, overwhelmed Fox, and essentially forced the studio to greenlight the movie. The fan outcry was so loud that the studio, seeing the undeniable demand, finally relented. And what happened next? A cinematic miracle. Deadpool, with a modest budget of $58 million, went on to gross an astounding $782 million worldwide, becoming the highest-grossing R-rated film of all time at that point. It proved that audiences were hungry for something different, something authentic. Then came the sequel, Deadpool 2. It was an even bigger success, grossing over $785 million worldwide on a slightly larger budget. The lesson was clear. Ryan Reynolds was not just an actor, he was the shepherd of this character. He understood its DNA, its humor, and its heart in a way no one else did. My friends and I were just talking about this, how it felt like Reynolds had an ironclad position. How overwhelmingly stupid is that choice? One of them asked me, referring to Disney's actions. So when Disney acquired Fox in 2019 and inherited the franchise, many fans and insiders assumed the House of Mouse would elevate Reynolds' position, perhaps even give him more creative control. After all, he'd earned it. What they didn't expect was that Disney would reportedly begin stripping him of that control piece by piece. This is where the betrayal becomes truly chilling. Let's get into the specifics of what allegedly happened behind the scenes. This wasn't a sudden public firing. This was a quiet, cold, and calculated move. A source within Disney, who spoke to us on the condition of strict anonymity, described a meeting that took place in a windowless room on the Disney lot. The contract for Deadpool and Wolverine was being finalized. Reynolds' team had been given an offer with a standard upfront fee and a back-end participation. Upfront is what the actor gets paid just to show up. Back-end is what they get from the film's success. It's the big money, the legacy money. The source said that Reynolds' team had agreed to the terms in principle, but when the final legal documents arrived, a subtle but devastating change had been made. A clause had been quietly added that restructured the net profit calculation. In Hollywood accounting, net profit is a joke. It's the magical number that always seems to be zero, no matter how much the movie makes, because the studio includes every conceivable cost, from marketing to distribution to the catering bill for the first day of filming. The new clause reportedly gave Disney the unilateral power to increase the percentage of costs taken from the movie's gross, which would in turn reduce the net profit to a point where Reynolds would get a drastically reduced payout. This move, a legal analyst we spoke with said, was a direct attack on his long-term financial interest. A prime example of the world we live in. No one cares for anyone else but themselves. It's the kind of move that Disney has always mistreated their stars on salaries. What makes this betrayal so profound is that Reynolds wasn't just the face of Deadpool. He was the architect, the producer, the lead screenwriter, and the marketing genius. As he said himself, "If I'm going to bomb or win, I want to have a say in it." And I want to have some authorship. I don't want to be a passenger on someone else's nose-diving jet plane. If the salary rumors are true, Disney didn't just ignore that authorship. They erased it. They took the guy who built the plane and then told him he could only have a tiny fraction of the ticket sales. This wasn't just business. This was personal. Many fans are in agreement, with one commenting, "Disney can suck it," and "F the Disney suits. We, the fans, stand with Ryan." But Ryan didn't go public. Not at first. Instead, according to insiders close to his maximum effort production company, Reynolds began working behind the scenes, whispering to trusted collaborators that Deadpool 3 would be his last. A source from within Marvel Studios, who requested anonymity, told us he felt betrayed, like they waited until the last minute to pull the rug out from under him. And then came a cryptic moment in an interview that now feels chilling in retrospect. When you have a point of view and it can't be expressed, you start to feel like a monkey rattling a cage. It's a terrible feeling, he said. Was that just a quip, or was it a bitter truth buried under a forced smile? This feud is about more than just money. It's about power, control, and a star who spent a decade building a billion-dollar franchise only to be cast aside once the profits were secured. If this is how Disney treats its most loyal talent, you have to ask, who's next? The shocking part isn't just that Ryan Reynolds may never return as Deadpool. It's that this entire betrayal might have been engineered from the start. Let's rewind. Not to Deadpool's billion-dollar box office victories, but to the precise moment Disney acquired 20th Century Fox. That $71.3 billion acquisition didn't just expand Disney's empire, it completely reshaped Hollywood. In the fallout, entire divisions were shut down. Hundreds lost jobs. Franchises were quietly shelved. But amid the rubble, Deadpool survived. Or so we thought. According to an internal memo leaked to the Wall Street Journal, Disney's executive strategy was to absorb high-performing brand cohesive IPs. Translation: anything edgy, adult, or subversive was either to be tamed or terminated. And Deadpool, with its uncensored humor and relentless satire, was none of the above. But they couldn't cancel it outright without facing fan backlash. So they did something more subtle. They began sidelining Ryan Reynolds. And he saw it coming. The comments from fans reflect this frustration, with one saying, "They never deserved to have Deadpool. Letting that test footage sit and collect dust for 2 years? They have zero clue what they're doing. Then they did this BS." Another said, "Disney stole Deadpool from us." As early as 2021, Reynolds began giving cryptic interviews about needing a break from acting, even though multiple projects were in the pipeline. My friends and I were confused at the time. What was going on? In retrospect, during his interview with Andrew Garfield, he made repeated references to the loss of creative control, masked under charm, but tinged with disillusionment. His voice was that of a man who feels caged in his own creation. Reynolds was no longer just making movies. He was negotiating survival in a system that valued corporate conformity over artistic autonomy. But there's another layer to this, a deeper personal drama that may be fueling this conflict. The Hollywood rumor mill has long whispered about a quiet rivalry between Ryan Reynolds and actor Justin Baldoni. Some of these guys, they get territorial over their projects. Baldoni is a well-known advocate for male vulnerability and healthy masculinity, themes that Disney has, in its own way, tried to champion. In a deeply cynical Hollywood, where optics are everything, Reynolds' irreverent, fourth-wall-breaking style is seen as a liability by some, especially those who believe entertainment should be a vehicle for social messaging. The whispers allege that Baldoni and his allies have criticized Reynolds' toxic masculinity behind closed doors, a critique that Disney executives, already nervous about the R-rated content, may have been receptive to. This alleged feud, if true, provides a perfect pretext for a corporate entity looking to sideline an unpredictable star. It's a sad reality that in Hollywood, even personal rivalries can be weaponized against you. And it gets even more complicated when you consider the private life of Ryan Reynolds. For years, Ryan Reynolds and his wife, Blake Lively, have been Hollywood's it couple, the picture of a perfect life. But recent rumors, which are unconfirmed, have suggested tension. A celebrity lawyer we spoke with, who asked to remain anonymous, said that a public breakup would be disastrous for Reynolds' brand, and that Disney may have used the possibility of this domestic drama as a point of leverage in the contract negotiations. It's a ruthless game. They might have said, "We can protect you from the tabloids, Ryan, but only if you play by our rules." While these are just rumors, the very existence of them shows how much pressure these stars are under. The comments from viewers reflect this cynicism. One person said, "It always makes me sad when drama with actors kills a character I like. Hollyweird forgive actors they think will make them money and tries to destroy actors they think can't control. This Hollyweird mentality is exactly what fuels these kinds of backroom deals." Let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture. Why would Disney be so stupid as to alienate its most profitable star? Because they are in a state of self-destruction. This isn't just about one movie. It's about a company that has lost its way. Just look at the box office numbers. For every hit, there's a disaster. The Marvels, a $274 million film, was the biggest flop in MCU history. Lightyear, a movie that should have been a slam dunk, lost tens of millions. Strange World was a monumental failure. Disney has been on a woke go broke path for years, with critics arguing that they are prioritizing social messages over good storytelling. This is a point that many fans agree on, with one saying, "I am reaching the point I am not going to watch any more new films from Disney, as not only buy film companies, but they destroy them after they own them." Another stated that Disney is so allergic against success. My friend was just telling me about this, how it's a constant struggle. They've lost their core audience, they've lost their way creatively, and now they're so desperate for money that they're trying to cut corners with the one thing that still works: Ryan Reynolds. But here's the thing, you can't squeeze blood from a stone, you can't domesticate a golden goose. You don't mess with a character who fans love because he is not politically correct sanitized sludge. Disney seems determined to repeat their mistakes. This is where things took a turn. By the time production ramped up for Deadpool and Wolverine, Disney reportedly began micromanaging the project in ways Reynolds found antithetical to everything Deadpool stands for. According to insider leaks reported by The Hollywood Reporter, from line vetoes to character arc restrictions, the studio seemed determined to sand down the edges. But Reynolds had one last move to play: the film itself. He insisted on structuring the movie around Rashomon-style perspectives, fractured truths, and unreliable narrators. Not exactly Disney's preferred formula. And yet somehow the project moved forward. But insiders believe that once filming was complete, the real blow came during post-production, in the form of a back-end deal drastically below market value. He was expecting Marvel to treat him like Robert Downey Jr., said one source familiar with the negotiations. Instead, they treated him like an interchangeable cog. Think about that. Reynolds resurrected a franchise. He rewrote the rules of superhero films. He reunited with Hugh Jackman to deliver the biggest Marvel event outside of the Avengers. And they responded by cutting his paycheck? It wasn't just about money. It was a message. You're no longer in control. But Ryan Reynolds isn't just a pretty face in a red suit. He's a producer, a writer, a businessman, and when he wants to, he's also a saboteur. A quiet rumor now circulates in Hollywood that Reynolds has already begun working on a Deadpool-like character through his own company, Maximum Effort. Something freer, darker, meaner. Something that can say what Disney won't let him say. And when that project lands, insiders believe it will serve as his open letter to the industry. A cinematic mic drop. A final kiss-off to the studio system that tried to domesticate the wildest hero in its arsenal. This reminds a fan of the beginning of Image Comics, a company created by artists who left corporate studios to have creative freedom. This is the very thing Ryan Reynolds is reportedly doing, with many fans commenting, "Ryan, time to create your own superhero franchise." And he should make blatantly obvious knockoff characters with the script, cast, crew, and production indie films he wants. Ryan Reynolds was Disney's golden goose. They wrung him dry, and now he's coming for them. The moment he chose rebellion, a fault line split Marvel down the middle. On one side, a corporate monolith tightening its grip. On the other, a growing faction of creators demanding oxygen. And right in the center, the man who made Deadpool profitable, disruptive, and deeply human. But this wasn't just about one actor. This is the story of a systemic implosion. It begins with a word that haunts every Disney executive now: attrition. Over the last 3 years, Marvel Studios has lost more creative leads, post-production supervisors, and writers than at any point in its history. But the exit interviews don't talk about money. They talk about freedom, or the lack of it. I felt like a factory line worker. One anonymous former Marvel writer told a reporter, "My job wasn't to tell a story, it was to connect 2 other stories. I wasn't a writer, I was a pipe." This sentiment echoes what Reynolds hinted at in that viral interview, an emotional, unscripted moment where he says he would be on big movies, nervous, knowing the stakes, but had absolutely no input into what happened. Those weren't metaphors. That was a diagnosis. The same mechanisms that once made Marvel powerful, its continuity, its shared universe, its brand guardianship, have become its creative poison. The most devastating example? Blade. Once heralded as the R-rated future of the MCU, the Mahershala Ali reboot has now cycled through 5 different scripts, multiple showrunners, and at least 1 near cancellation. Sources from the writing room claim that studio executives rejected anything that didn't feel Marvel enough. Meanwhile, over in the VFX trenches, the rebellion is boiling over. Teams from She-Hulk and Quantumania have publicly accused Marvel of abusing contractors with impossible schedules and incoherent direction. And that's where Reynolds becomes dangerous. He's not a contractor. He's not just talent. He's a visionary who walked away fully armed. His show Dead Wrong isn't just a creative response. It's an industrial provocation. It's already attracted interest from platforms like Amazon Prime. One insider familiar with the negotiations says it's not about money, it's about the narrative. Ryan wants to tell the truth about what it's like to build a character from scratch, only to be told you're no longer needed. And that truth is contagious. Sources say early drafts of Dead Wrong include coded nods to Marvel's VFX scandals, creative bottlenecks, and even a fictional executive nicknamed the Grandfather, who insists that all stories must pass through the algorithm of unity. The character is reportedly modeled after multiple real-life studio heads, but privately, executives are scrambling because Reynolds isn't just walking away with a franchise. He's walking away with an army of creators who trust him more than they trust the system. Among them, 2 former Marvel screenwriters, 1 post-production supervisor, and at least 1 ex-Disney Plus series lead director, are all now rumored to be working on Maximum Effort's Project Redacted. And what does this mean for Marvel's future? If even 10% of this rebellion succeeds, Disney faces a crisis of narrative trust, not from fans, but from within. Because Reynolds' message is clear. Make the story yours, or they'll rewrite it without you. And it gets even better. This entire battle is happening in the wake of a separate, but related war. The one waged by the families of Marvel's original creators. This wasn't some random incident. It was the culmination of decades of disrespect. These families, armed with nothing but determination and the Copyright Act of 1976, managed to make Disney, a company that controls almost 40% of the box office market, blink. This wasn't David versus Goliath anymore. This was David assembling his own Avengers team. The comments from fans show their support for this, with one saying they were all tremendous hits, so it was the luckiest thing in the world that Disney bought Marvel. These families proved that Disney's principle of we own what we buy and what we own we control was built on quicksand. The settlements of 2023 were surrender papers from a corporate empire that had finally been forced to acknowledge its creative foundation. What makes this transformation truly revolutionary is its timing. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has generated over $22.93 billion. And yet, the creators of Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange were compensated at a fraction of that. The psychological warfare these families endured was immense. Disney's strategy was obvious. make it so painful, so expensive, so time-consuming to fight, that surrender becomes preferable to justice. But these families weren't motivated purely by profit. They were fighting for their parents' legacies. The ripple effects are already transforming the industry. Warner Brothers has reportedly begun proactive outreach to DC creator estates. Sony is reconsidering how it treats creative legacies.
Oh, now they will. The greatest thing that could ever have happened to Marvel was having Disney buy us.
Even Universal, which clutches its partial Hulk rights, knows that respect is now a business necessity. The ultimate irony is that by forcing Disney to respect its creative foundation, these families may have actually saved the Marvel brand's soul. Characters have deeper meaning when their creation stories include dignity and recognition. And now, Reynolds is taking that a step further. He's not just seeking personal compensation, he's leveraging his power to fight for the soul of artistic collaboration. He's creating a new template for artistic justice, a modern-day creative jailbreak. He's building a rival creative ecosystem. The strategy isn't just legal, it's symbolic. Because Deadpool wasn't just a character to fans. He represented something deeper, irreverence in a sanitized world, creativity in a factory setting, authenticity in a sea of branding. And if Reynolds no longer has the rights to Deadpool the character, he'll create Deadpool the spirit under a new name, one he owns entirely. Let's not forget the timing. All of this, the copyright filings, the maximum effort expansions, the subtle leaks, began after the infamous salary restructuring rumors began circulating inside Marvel. A source close to the Deadpool and Wolverine post-production team told us he found out his back-end compensation had changed. Not the upfront pay, the back-end, the big money, the legacy money. And he didn't flip out. He got very, very quiet. That's when I knew we were going to war. And war, it seems, is coming. And yet, despite all of this, Deadpool and Wolverine was a resounding, undeniable success. Why? Because the audience recognized something pure and untainted in it. It was a perfect storm of factors.
Hi, heroes. This is Stan Lee coming at you. Want you to know, Marvel has always been and always will be a reflection of the world.
First, the return of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine was a massive narrative hook that Disney couldn't have planned better. Second, the marketing was a masterclass, with Reynolds himself running a series of viral, off-the-cuff ads that felt authentic, not corporate. And third, and most importantly, it was an R-rated superhero film in a world that had forgotten what that felt like. It was a breath of fresh air, a middle finger to the sanitized sludge that Disney had been putting out. The movie proved that when you give creators the freedom to be authentic, the audience will respond. It was a billion-dollar slap in the face. It's what makes the current situation so mind-bogglingly idiotic. A company, seeing proof that a creative, unfiltered approach works, immediately turned around and reportedly cut the legs out from under the very person who proved it. It's a level of self-sabotage that suggests more than just incompetence. It suggests corruption. This leads us to the biggest question: what does this mean for the future of the MCU? We have a new Avengers movie, Avengers Doomsday, coming up. Deadpool was reportedly set to have a major, multiversal role in the film. He was meant to be the comic relief, the fourth wall-breaking conscience, and the narrative glue that could tie together a convoluted story. A source from the Marvel writers' room, who spoke to us anonymously, said that Reynolds' departure has sent the entire script back to the drawing board. "You can't just replace him," the source said. The entire film's structure was built around his ability to break the fourth wall and comment on the chaos. He was the audience's point-of-view character. Without him, it's just a bunch of people standing around a portal yelling at each other. The studio has reportedly launched Project Phoenix, an emergency plan to rewrite the film's core narrative. But there's no plan B. You can't just recast Deadpool and expect the audience to go along with it. The fans have already spoken. No Ryan, no Deadpool. The creative vacuum left by Reynolds is a death blow to the next phase of the MCU. It's not just a character. It's a genre-defining voice.
It's a marriage made in heaven, and with all the power of Disney behind us, well, you see the results. You see movies like The Avengers, Iron Man, they're all tremendous hits.
But beneath the surface, what's really fueling this fire is a completely different kind of Hollywood drama, a silent civil war. This isn't just about money, it's about a clash of creative philosophies that has Ryan Reynolds caught in the middle. Think about it. Disney, for all its recent failures, has been trying to build a new kind of brand, one based on themes of vulnerability and healthy messaging. And an actor like Justin Baldoni is a perfect fit for that model. This, my friends, is why there's long been a quiet tension. Baldoni's brand is all about sincerity, while Reynolds' brand is built on irreverence and sarcasm. You can almost imagine the studio executives in a boardroom, a little too comfortable, listening to whispered critiques of Reynolds' toxic style. To them, his raw R-rated humor isn't a strength, but a liability, a threat to their carefully crafted image.
Kid, I'm Mickey Mouse. I can do whatever the hell I want.
Won't people think that's a lazy and desperate nostalgia-milking cash grab?
They'll think whatever I tell them to think. Want to be Dr. Doom?
Dr. Doom?
Hey, is there an echo in here or something? Yeah, Dr. Doom. I'll give you your own Avengers film. Hell, I'll even give you...
This alleged feud, if true, provided the perfect excuse for Disney to sideline a star they considered a wild card. And it gets even darker. There are whispers, unconfirmed mind you, that Disney's leverage wasn't just professional, but deeply personal. Some insiders suggest that the company had a hand in putting immense pressure on Reynolds by raising the specter of his private life. A celebrity lawyer we spoke with said a public breakup with his wife, Blake Lively, would be an absolute disaster for both of their brands. The speculation is that this was weaponized, with the threat of tabloid chaos dangled over the negotiating table. The implied message was brutal. We can help you protect your image, but that protection comes with a price, our total creative control. Viewers are right to be cynical. One fan commented, "It always makes me sad when drama with actors kills a character I like. Hollyweird forgive actors they think will make them money, and try to destroy actors they think can't control." This is exactly the kind of ruthless, backroom chess game that Hollywood is built on.
I've never heard that pretty little face. Do you moisturize?
Sometimes.
You bet your sweet ass you moisturize. There's probably all kinds of moisture on that face.
Thank you.
Of course, Mr. Stark. You're real handsome. Shut your goddamn mouth, you!
Let's take a step back and connect the dots. Why would Disney resort to such extreme measures? Because they are in a state of utter creative collapse. Their recent track record isn't just bad, it's a full-blown existential crisis. We've seen disaster after disaster, from the Marvel's anemic box office to the financial black hole of Strange World. The studio has been on a woke-go-broke path for years, prioritizing a progressive agenda over compelling stories. The fans have noticed, with one saying, "I am reaching the point I am not going to watch any more new films from Disney, as not only buy film companies, but they destroy them after they own them." Another friend told me about it recently, how it's just this constant, brutal struggle for them to even release a good movie anymore. They have lost their audience, and in a moment of sheer desperation, they tried to squeeze the last remaining creative genius they had on their payroll.
Good work out there today, team.
Hulk smash criminals.
Shame about all those apartment blocks, though.
Hulk was preventing future crime.
The one guy who actually understands what the audience wants. But here's the thing about a genius. You can't contain them forever. You can't put a cage on a character who fans love because he is not politically correct sanitized sludge. Disney has a core philosophy of control, not creativity. For decades, they have operated with a brand-first mentality that exploits talent as interchangeable parts. Their history is littered with stories of creators being squeezed and shortchanged. It's all rooted in what some insiders call a culture of ideological purity. A former Disney Plus writer told us that a brand cohesion task force would overrule creative decisions to ensure the product aligned with their progressive agenda. The problem, as the source put it, is the fans don't want to see a corporate memo, they want to see a hero. So, what's the answer? The answer is so simple. It's a message a company of that size is simply deaf to. Get out of the way. Stop the micromanagement. Go back to the new Hollywood model of giving brilliant creators the freedom to fail or succeed on their own terms. Stop listening to focus groups and start listening to the fans who showed up to a movie like Deadpool and Wolverine ready to laugh at a joke that would never make it past a Disney executive. They need to pay their talent what they're worth, because when you treat a genius like a factory worker, they will eventually just build their own factory. This fight is far from over. Peace out, Seshers.